into the whirlwind of racist reaction which he has unleashed in the US and across the globe. He's having a massive impact on the everyday lives of women, African Americans, immigrants, Muslims and Latinos in the US. And we cannot be silent at times of injustice. Those who are debating the Muslim ban, there's no debate on this, just like there was no debate on apartheid South Africa. We are not silent then, and we will not be silent now. And I say shame on the Tories for supporting both. So Stand Up to Trump has come at a very important moment. We are going to have to stand 100% in solidarity with our friends in the US and in the difficult weeks and months and years ahead. Their struggle is our struggle. The fact that there's no US president who has been invited on a state visit so quickly in their first term makes it very clear to me what this government's agenda is. No, I'm not happy that this government has not cancelled the state visit after we took to the streets, but I want to say this. London or Birmingham, we will be out in the streets. Trump already is having an impact on the communities in Britain. Every racist, every bigot stands taller thanks to his victory. Their confidence has grown and their reaction will thrive. We already have seen in the wake of Brexit what a racist victory of the ballot box means. Racist hate crime has soared. Muslim women have had their headscarves ripped off in the streets, and so many of us have been told to go home despite living in Britain all our lives. Racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia is massively on the rise. With the Tories' racist hard Brexit and disgusting racists holding the presidency of the US, the stakes in the fight against racism just got that bit higher. And yet again, refugees are bearing the brunt of this disgusting racist agenda. Trump is wielding a disgusting wall, and Theresa May is building a wall also against refugees in Calais. We need to slam both these racist walls. The only hope we have of moving forward in this situation is building the biggest, broadest organisation to stand up to Trump. And if he does turn up to Britain, whether it's in London and Birmingham, yes, let's all get out into the street and shut him down. Now is the time to step up and make it count. As Martin Luther King once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. Now, I'm not a Muslim and I'm not Mexican, but I got a message for Trump. If you want to get to them, you need to get to all of us first, and me.
Thank you, Barbara, very much for those words. Our next testament against Trump will cover the threat to our world on his question of climate change from the Campaign from Climate Change, Susanna Jeffries.
Thank you. So Donald Trump is an absolute disaster for the planet, and nobody should be in any doubt about that whatsoever. There is an attempt often when it looks so bleak to try to normalise the situation, to try and make it look like it won't end up quite as bad as it presents itself. But in the case of Trump and what he has to say on climate change, unfortunately, we can't normalise, and we must not normalise that situation. Every single thing that Trump has done since he took office should leave us in absolutely no doubt that he will be a disaster for the planet unless we stop him, and we stop him with urgency. He's going to ensure, the announcements he's made, he's going to ensure that his friends in the fossil fuel industry are able to extract every last ounce of fossil fuel, despite the consequences to the planet and regardless of the alternatives to fossil fuel. His announcements that he's made on the Keystone pipeline, on the Dakota Access pipeline, both of which faced enormous protest movements and both of which were pushed away temporarily, but he has announced that he will back those in order to push for more and more fossil fuel extraction. He's made it clear that he's lukewarm about Paris and that he wants to undermine the Paris Agreement. And he's pulled the plug already on the kind of funding needed to understand climate change, the NASA funding. And it's clear why he does this, because he's surrounded by a load of alt-right misinformation, think tanks, and every ounce of funding that's taken away from the scientists who are understanding the problem gives space and oxygen to the crazy alt-right idiots in the think tanks funded by the fossil fuel industries. If you remain in any doubt that Trump is a threat to the planet, then look at his appointees for government, and that should absolutely banish your doubts. The top job of Secretary of State has gone to Rex Tillerson. The Rex Tillerson has done nothing other in his life up until this moment in time, apart from being a child, but in an adult life, he's worked consistently for the fossil fuel industry. He's been a chief executive of ExxonMobil, and it's quite clear where his loyalties lie. He worked with the Russian state to agree a deal between ExxonMobil and the Russian oil companies in order to exploit the oil reserves in the Arctic. And he's been given the top job. Yesterday, amongst the wreckage of Trump's cabinet, Scott Pruitt was appointed to lead the Environment Protection Agency. This is a climate skeptic who's openly said he doesn't believe that climate change is happening. He's been a lawyer for the fossil fuel industry, and he's been appointed to lead the industry that he has over and over again attacked on behalf of the fossil fuel industry. I want to finish with this. Climate played a massive part in Trump's campaigning. Don't underestimate how much he used climate, not in the way that we would want to see it, in order to identify the problem, but he used climate and his climate skepticism as another way to breed division. So climate change became a Chinese hoax to take US jobs. In working class communities, he presented climate change as a politically correct issue which should be rejected to maintain US jobs. And nothing could be further from the truth. Climate change is real, and it is, and it does, and it will affect the poorest, the working class communities, the non-white communities in the US, as indeed around the rest of the world. And at this moment in time, Trump and his friend May are pursuing policies which will make climate change work whilst at the same time demonising the communities that will suffer the most from the impacts of climate change. Tackling climate change doesn't mean a loss of jobs, and that is the biggest lie of all. It's not jobs versus the environment. So what can we do? I think we have been given an opportunity. We've been given an opportunity to make climate a central part of our mass movement against Trump, against the kind of policies that he represents and his friends around the world represent. So we stand in solidarity with the US climate movement. We stand in solidarity with the hugely brave people who protested at Standing Rock. Don't let Trump deny us. Stand in solidarity with migrants and refugees, and don't let him counterpose environments, goods and jobs. That is a massive lie.